Welcome back to the Rock and Roll Ghost podcast. This week we have musician Steve Kilbey. You might know him from the church and from his 40-something albums, I think. I tried counting. Honestly, I ran out of fingers and toes. How are you doing today, Steve, besides telling me that you just got your last shot? Was it your second or your first shot?
No, 2 weeks ago I had my first AstraZeneca shot.
Okay. I'm
feeling pretty iffy. Yeah. But you know, what can you do? It's better than the alternative, I guess.
Yeah. I'm surprised. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah. Oh, I've got tinnitus.
Okay.
So if my ears, are people going to see me or just hear me?
Yeah. That's why I was going to asking. That's why I was asking, because you're. Is there a way to turn up the speakers in your end?
It's up.
Okay.
I might just have to lean in a bit to hear what you say.
All right. Well, just lean in and then lean back when you actually have the answer. Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about the main reason we're here today is to talk about your new album with the Winged Heels called the Hall of Counterfeits. It's a double album that's already out there. What can you tell everybody about the new album?
Okay. Well, I put this band together called the Winged Heels, which is me on 12-string guitar and bass guitar, Barton Price on drums, a guy called Gareth Koch on flamenco guitar, and a guy called Roger Mason who plays all kinds of instruments, he plays piano and organ and cello, but he also plays all these strange, weird, arcane instruments like hurdy-gurdy, hammered dulcimer, a Swedish instrument called a nickel harper, all kinds of weird and strange sort of things. We're trying to make different music, which we're sort of making music with Indian and Middle Eastern and Celtic. We call it amongst ourselves ancient music. It isn't really ancient music. It's sort of our idea of what ancient music is. My idea of ancient music is I used to go with my mum and dad and they used to take me to see all those Charlton Heston movies when he was Moses, and I was so fascinated with the music that Hollywood would come up with to, you know, when Moses would appear, there'd be ba, 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 and when they go into battle, or when you know the hero's being seduced by this sort of dancing girl from 5000 BC, there'd be this sort of music playing, which was Hollywood's stab at trying to recreate ancient music, because we don't really know what ancient music sounded like.
Right.
And now coming through that, I've sort of recreated, or the band's sort of trying to recreate our idea of what we imagine sort of ancient music might have felt like or sounded like. And we made an album called Songs from Another Life. And we've kept that going a bit on Hall of Counterfeits. Plus, I wrote a whole bunch of new. They're really just sort of straightforward rock or pop songs, but we're sort of treating it differently. We're not going for perfection. We're going for feeling. We're going for sort of mistakes and improvisation and first or second takes. I'm sort of trying to react completely against the 80s when everything was boom, 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 and everything became perfect, and they got all these producers in that tried to give you the California sound. I'm going against it. I'm going for, I say it like this: music can be like a city, or music can be like a jungle, a wild, everything just going everywhere. That's what I'm trying to do, not sort of square, functional, perfect music. I'm trying to make wild, fantastic music that's all tangled up, and you can't really tell what's going on. So I've got these great players, and I sort of derail them from what they would normally do, because everybody sort of wants to do perfect stuff, but I don't. I don't want everything to resolve, and I don't want everything to necessarily be pretty, go where you think it's going to go. We're using lots of we're using Eastern scales and things in some of the songs, and treating it in a whole different way, getting away from that sort of 80s, that thing that started up, that where everything sort of had to be this idea of perfection, like, tempo and everything had to be exactly the same. So I'm getting away from that and sort of going back to sort of organic music, improvisational music, on the spur of the moment music.
Okay. Great. Well, I definitely hear that in the album. I was able to listen to it today, as a matter of fact, because I wanted it to be fresh in my head. And there's definitely a lot of that stuff. Like there's feel like in my ears, a little bit of something like Peter Gabriel was kind of going for at times with the Temptation.
The passion, yeah.
Right, yes.
Yeah, the music,
yeah. There's a little bit of that,
definitely.
But it's also in sort of a contained way, but there's a structure, but there's also a little bit of a wild element on going out and pushing against the margins.
Absolutely. And also, I mean, there's a lot of the Beatles in there. There's a lot of like as tracks like Tomorrow Never Knows, and the things the Beatles were doing during their sort of psychedelic period. It's all. I mean, Peter Gabriel is being more authentic. I'm just sort of taking all this stuff that I like and recontextualizing it stuff going on at the margins. It doesn't always do what you think it's going to do. Sort of just encouraging a sort of a wild sort of feeling, not perfection, not what I didn't want to have perfection. I made, the records that I did with the church that sold really well, they were perfect. If you listen to Under the Milky Way, say, it's all perfect. Everything's where it should be, and it starts at this tempo and ends at this tempo and everything. But with this music, it's trying to let it breathe and wander and meander. I'm looking for, always grasping for terms, but I would say I always come back to the word organic. It's not electronic. It's not all quantized and auto-tuned, and it's sort of like letting music breathe and wander around.
Yeah, well, there really are two kind of camps, really, when it comes to people, that have been in the business for a while. Either they're trying to stay current in some weird way and find a modern audience, or they really go in a different direction, and like you're saying here, and going in a direction where they don't know necessarily where they're going. They're reaching for something kind of unquantifiable in a way. Yep. And it seems like that's where your head's been going for the past 20 or so years.
Definitely. If someone rang me up and said, I want you to make a modern album, I wouldn't even know what that is. Having said that, I've just started doing some vocals on some guys, some Australian guys. I can't say who they are, but they've had a lot of success overseas. These kind of dancey, trancey, electro music, what is it called? EMD?
EDM.
EDM. The EDM, these guys have come to me and said, can you sing on these tracks? So they've given me, I guess, what is the people would consider modern music. And I'm sort of doing my thing over the top of it with singing and lyrics, sort of as much as I can, fucking it up with my take on things. So I guess I'm still willing to have a foot in that world, but when I'm left to my own devices, I don't expect this record to sell. I don't expect this record to do anything. I'm not doing it to make money. The record cost me a lot of money to make. I'm never going to get it back. It's to turn people on. It's just purely for that reason that I know somewhere in this world there'll be one or two people will hear this album, and hopefully maybe musicians, someone somewhere will hear this album and go, wow, this is inspiring. Look what you can do. You don't have to do things the other way. And
Right.
It's a bit like firing an arrow into a crowd. You don't know who you're going to hit. But I'm just hoping someone out there will be inspired by this. And so the torch will be passed on. I don't really like all this, the stuff that I hear on the radio. It's so hard because I'm old. And my dad hated fucking T-Rex and hated David Bowie. And I'm wondering, and I thought, well, he didn't understand. He was a musician. He liked his sort of music, jazz and stuff. He didn't understand. And maybe I'm thinking I just don't understand. I can't understand what's good about the sort of music you would hear if you put the radio on. But to me, it sounds really empty. And when you sort of when every song is tuned, all the vocals tuned. And I also saw a documentary the other day made by a very young guy. Why does modern music suck? And he came to the conclusion 95% of the stuff you hear on the radio is written by 3 different people. Yeah. It's like Max Martin in Sweden is knocking the hits out and has been for a long time. There's a couple in the guys in America, a woman and a guy in America. And between these 3 people, they're responsible for everything you're fucking hearing. That's wrong. I mean, well, it's not wrong. I mean, good luck to them. I wish it was me. I wish I was in the top 3 and everyone go, fucking Steve Kilbey's written everything on the radio. But no wonder it all sounds the same. And then they sort of, they're using algorithms to go, well, this one was a hit and this one was a hit. See if we can get one in between that one and that one. And to me, it fucking sounds like it. And the lyrics are abysmal. All that, oh, girl, I'll never break your heart like these other guys, I'm so not into
I know
that.
what you mean. Yeah.
What's that?
I know what you mean. I feel the same way. I'm 50. And for me, the last 20 odd years, it's been like music has not evolved one iota.
No. Also, I also think about this. I was lucky enough, because I'm 66, as I was growing up, the Beatles were like, every fucking single the Beatles released was different. They would do this, and then they'd do this, and then they do this, and it was like, and all the other bands were joining in on that. So, I had all these other people, and Dylan was, then he would counter, and then the Beach Boys would do something, and then the Who, the Byrds, and all these bands. And then, of course, Bowie came along and sort of changed the whole game again. And I like prog rock. I'm not ashamed to say I like Yes, and I like Genesis. Peter Gabriel especially. And so I was growing up in this era where we had these where it wasn't just pop music, it was art. I mean, I would argue for hours against anyone, but Strawberry Fields Forever is a piece of art, a piece of high art, a piece of absolutely mind-blowing high art. And it was number 1 single. Number 1 singles don't have to be stupid and dumbed down and like, oh, girl. It doesn't have to be that, but it is. That's what it is at the moment. Yeah.
It's sorry. It's a real. What it is it's just a lack of imagination, and it's a lack of wanting anything different. People want the same thing fed to them over and over again. Is it ever gonna come back? No. I have no. Is it ever going to swing? Do you think it's ever going to swing back, or it doesn't feel like it? No, it doesn't feel like it at all. It doesn't. Yeah. It's interesting. About 10 years ago, I had
I've got 5 daughters, so I always 2 of my daughters were actually successful for a little while in a band called Say Lulu, but my middle daughters, we were talking about hipsters, and I said, what does the hippest guy at your high school, what would he be listening to? And they both went, the Beatles. And I went, what? In like 2013, the hippest guy at your high school, the hippest high school in Sydney, is listening to the fucking Beatles? Like, what's going on with that? And they went, yeah, definitely the Beatles. They'd be listening to the Beatles. Yeah. And it's sort of like, how could we have not progressed in all that time? And I mean, the Beatles, that's the brilliance of the Beatles, that what they did will I imagine will stand for almost all time.
Yeah.
You'd imagine some of those songs have entered the collective human consciousness now, and forever people will be sort of talking about Beatles songs. But it's not just the songs, it's just the spirit of let's do whatever we can, let's break the mold. And in my own humble, small way, now that there, record companies there's nobody telling me what to do. If I can find the money, I can make whatever record I like. And so when I get the chance to do that, I just want to break the conventions. I don't want to make it so far out that people can't listen to it. I still want to make it a melodic and interesting listen, but within that, I kind of want to make a statement, of something. Anyway, but modern music doesn't seem to want to do that.
Yeah, well, we're looking at a generation that, for all its norm-busting conventions, they're breaking down the barriers on race, on money, on sex, on sexuality, on gender. It's a generation that's deeply interested in being sold the same assembly line over and over again, which boggles my mind. I don't understand it.
Well, I've got a guy. I go to a swimming pool every day that's a sea pool, and there was an old jazz musician there, and he said to me, he said, in our day, when we were teenagers, music was everything. Music, and like I come from this thing, the Sydney pub rock explosion of the 80s, where I got my start. In those days, when we were teenagers and in our early 20s, music was everything. That's what you did. And now he said music's just another option on a phone, There'll be music or social media or blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Music has it's lost that incredible driving importance that it used to have. I mean, I'd meet a kid in the schoolyard who was about to punch my head in, and I'd go, hey, wait a minute, didn't I see you with a King Crimson record? And he'd go, yeah. I go, I love King Crimson, that's it. Friendships were built and lost on what music you liked. And music was when I was growing up, it was everything. Music was 95% of my life and the rest was unimportant. Nowadays, it ain't like that. It's just sort of like, it's just another app on your phone. Maybe I'll have a bit of music, maybe I'll look at Instagram. Yeah. So it's temporarily seems to have lost that incredible importance that it once had.
Yeah. Well, my hope is that the next generation comes up with a way to push through, quite frankly.
I think someone will come through. Having said all that, my youngest daughter, who's 15, is obsessed with Billie Eilish. And she said to me, Dad, Billie Eilish isn't what you think it is. And I said, play me some Billie Eilish. She played me some Billie Eilish. I went, whoa, okay. Billie Eilish is she's coming up. That James Bond theme she wrote is beautiful, and does have good lyrics and does have musical twists and turns. So there are people out there, young people out there, who do have talent, who are doing good things, I guess. And hopefully one of them will kind of break through and revolutionize, will have a revolt back into style and get away from the sort of generic slush that they're peddling now.
Yeah, there's a glimmer of hope. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you make your albums. You said you obviously have to pay for them yourself. How does that work? Do you use tour money or royalties? How do you make money?
I was lucky enough that last year I was doing Instagram concerts, and one guy who's a lawyer was getting some big bonuses, and he started chucking some pretty good money at me. And I felt like if I just keep this money and buy myself nice shoes and, you know what I mean, buy myself a comfortable couch or something, that wouldn't karmically be right. This money that I've earned through music has to be plowed back into music. So I got the money from a patron. I have had, and I still have, a few different patrons. Just like in Italy in the 15th century, rich people who love art and earning more money than they really know what to do with. And they see struggling artists or people whose music that they like, and they still go, here's some money, make some more music. And I like to think that if I was a rich guy, that I would be doing the same. I would give the money to people who I admired who couldn't afford to sort of keep going. So he was chucking a lot of money at me. A lot of money for me. I'm not talking hundreds of thousands, but I'm talking in thousands. And so I've been spending it on making records. The Winged Heels, I guess the whole thing took about 3 weeks, all in different sessions. And I found a studio that I really like. I found an engineer that I really like who understands what I'm going for. So, when we got a chance, we would go in, and these guys are still ringing me up. The Winged Heels going, when are we going to make another record? And I'm still going, well, the last one's just come out. However, having said that, we already have the next album in the can, which was some songs I wrote for a musical. I wrote a bunch of songs for a musical, so I went in the studio with these guys, the Winged Heels, and recorded them as well. But that's so patron funded at the moment. Yeah. Nice.
Do you mostly do you mostly work in the studio these days, or do you do any recording like at your home or anything?
I do you know the story of my tragic life? Once upon a time, I had my own great recording studio, and I had loads of guitars and stuff. And then I became a heroin addict, and I lost it all. And I don't have a studio anymore. I don't really have. Strangely enough, the other day I bought an 8-track cassette player. Remember those? It's the one Springsteen used to make Nebraska. It's like a cassette player, but you can do overdubbing and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I bought that now, and I'm so lazy I haven't set it up yet. I plan to do a little bit of stuff on that, but mainly, even when I had my own studio, I found it very frustrating trying to do everything, sort of engineer for myself and do everything. So I really like to have, and I've got this one guy now. He's an American guy. And it's funny I should say that, because so much different working with an American guy in the studio, and he calls a spade, and he'll go, no, not good enough, do it again. Or he'd go, and when he goes, that's good enough, I know it's good enough. He's just got this great American attitude, and when he says something, I listen and the other guys listen, and it's really good to have that sort of pillar of sensibility. Someone whose opinion, when he says, that's enough, you've got it, or when he says, no, you haven't got it, keep going. I like to have that. And plus, he's a great engineer, so everything sounds good. He understands the kind of, when the record's finished, I give it to him, and then he'll send me a mix. And usually 90% of the time, the mix is absolutely perfect. Sometimes I have to go, can you just do this and do this? And he'll do that. So it's fantastic to surround yourself with a team that can let you do what you want to do, and they all understand. It's not always... It's often in bands that I've been in, you're pushing against people. There's a record company putting pressure, or other guys in the band are putting pressure, or the producer you're working with is putting pressure on you. And everything becomes a compromise. I love this situation, the way I made this record. I was in control. I wanted to hear everybody's suggestions and take them all in. But at the end of the day, if I said no or if I said yes, that's how it was going to be. And it's great. And then you can have an undiluted sort of thing like Hall of Counterfeits, for all its many flaws and faults and songs that go on too long and ones that blah, 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 blah. It's undiluted me. It's like, and when I hear it, I don't go, oh, I wish I hadn't made someone make me do that. Or I wish I hadn't let that guy, when you're in a band, and other guys write songs and go, I want to do my song. I didn't get in a band to do other people's songs. I got in a band to do my songs. And then suddenly you've got a band and the guys are writing songs, and you can't, it's very hard to go, no, I don't want to do your song. So every now and then you end up doing somebody else's song, which I didn't really want to do them. I didn't really like them. That wasn't what the idea was. I didn't want producers telling me what to do. I didn't like record companies telling me what to do. And so it all becomes a compromise, and records come out that you really regret. Years later, you go, what was I thinking? How did I let that happen? Yeah. So at this advanced stage of the game, because I've got a patron who's helping me out, I can finally get back in the control, in control of this whole thing, in the driving seat, the director of a film. I always think it's funny. In the film world, the producer is the guy that comes up with the money, and in the music world, the producer is really the director. And it's funny how those two worlds So I like to see myself. I'm the director of the record. I have all the sort of bits of information at my fingertip, but I get it going and I do with it what I like, and that's how I want to work. I don't want to compromise my visions anymore with people going, oh, you should really, there's so much stuff, songs can't be, you weren't allowed to do short songs. You weren't allowed to do long songs. You weren't allowed to do songs with jams in them. You weren't allowed to do songs with that kind of language, and, you should look like this and you should do that and you should say this. It's like it's nice to be gone from all those restrictions, because all the people that were putting pressure on me, they were all 5 years out of date anyway. By the time the record company goes, you should make a record like this, and by the time you make it and it comes out and it's like the way they want it, it's already miles out of date. And there's always these innovative people doing things, and then the rest of the pack running along behind them trying to do something like that. Radiohead are an example of that. The Radiohead started doing this and doing that, and then there's all these other people trying to do what Radiohead had done, and by the time it comes out, Radiohead are often moving on to something else. Yeah. So I like to be my own man. It doesn't seem like too much to ask anymore, but when it comes to music, after 50 years of being a musician and making 60 odd records and all the hours I've done in recording studios, if you add it all up, it'd be years. I still want to be my own guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. An interesting idea just hit me. Did you ever work a straight job?
I did. From age 19 to age 22, I had a job in the Australian Public Service, which is, I guess, I don't know what you call it. In England, they call it the civil service. What do you call, in America, you might just say working for the government. I was working I was working in the Department of Primary Industry in the Bureau of Agricultural Economics, and I was like a trainee computer programmer. So if someone would ring up and go, how many sheep were there in Queensland in 1925, I would write a little program to figure out how many sheep there were that year. You know, that's that sort of stuff. However, I wasn't very good at my job, and I will always remember this. One day, the big boss of the whole place came in and he said, and this is how he spoke. He said, "Mr. Kilbey, I don't mind that you don't do any work. What I object to is that you stop everyone else from working." I was a real terrorist in the office, undermining the whole thing. Yeah. So that was my straight job.
Well, it struck me because, I mean, your insistence on you wanting to do your own thing, and basically you don't want to listen to a boss is the impression I get. You have it seems to have like an issue with authority in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I realized, let's get really esoteric. In my last life, I was some kind of big shot, because when I was born, from the moment I could think, I resented my fucking mother washing my hair and pulling me around and treating me like a child. I'm inside me, something rebelled against that, going this vague memory of whoever I was in my last life, some kind of bigwig that was used to bossing people around, having all the control. I brought that forward in this life. I do not like people telling me what to. I know nobody does, but I really I'll even do something stupid. If someone says, "Don't do that," I'll do it. Just so if someone says, "I think you should rest," I'll go, "I'm not resting if you're telling me to." So I've always had this ridiculous, I think you'd say rebel without a clue, rebel without a cause. I sort of rebel against whatever there is. Often senselessly. I do like to do my own thing, and I was hopeless in that job, and I really ruined it for the people who worked there by fucking around and clowning around and doing silly things.
Yeah. Now, in also that same spirit, did being in a band, was that a difficult thing?
Yeah. Being in a band is really difficult, and it's not just for me, but for everybody. And you see that with your Beatles. You see how hard it gets, and you see it with all the bands that break up and bands that go on and lose members and new guys come in. Even people who are really successful, really, really successful people leave really successful things because they can't handle it anymore. And it's the other thing was with me, looking at me specifically, even though I could write songs and play instruments, and I wouldn't call myself a singer, but I knew I could sort of do something as a vocalist, using my limited resources to produce something. I didn't know how to treat other people, and I wasn't a leader of men. I wasn't a very good leader. I was either I have this problem. I either err on the side of being too tyrannical, or I err on the side of going, "Oh, okay, just for the sake of a quiet life." Like, "Oh, if I say no to this, I'm going to get a great big argument. I can't handle that anymore, so I'm just going to agree to it."
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go on.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, which do you think is better, to be a person that has a vision and leads in an authoritative way in a band, or is it better to be a good manager and be able to pull the best out of people to get where you all want to be?
Okay, the answer to that is, I'm not dodging the question, right, but the answer is, if you want to be a tyrant, or if you want to have it all your own way, don't have a band structure where it's like the Four Musketeers, where it's all for one and one for all, and you want to be friends with the other guys in the band. You don't want to upset them. If you want to have your vision done your way, don't start a band, start a thing. And I remember right at the very beginning of my career, the guy who discovered us said, we should call this band Steve Kilbey and the Church, so everybody knows and they know that you're the guy running the show. And I was like, no, we're a band. We want to be a band. We want to be like, we want to. But then I found that didn't work out for me. I found that, as I said, I didn't have for a little while I did. In the very beginning, I made sure things were the way I wanted them, but the other guys fucking resented me so. And it's like if you watch a bit of Let It Be, the Beatles movie, you see Paul's trying to get them to do stuff, and there's this famous scene where he's going, George, can you just do this? And George going, I can do whatever you want, Paul. What do you want me to do? Just tell me. And it's like I was starting to get. I remember one day I'd written this song and I was trying to play it to them, and they were standing there. And it just was like a teacher and naughty students. And I'm going, hey, guys, this song, it's like in D. Oh, it's in D, is it? Yeah, and it does that. Oh, it does it? Is that how it? And they're all looking at each other like, listen to him. I was sort of, I'm not a nice enough guy to inspire. You imagine Bruce Springsteen is such a wonderful guy, and those guys call him the boss. They all just fall in. And when he says, hey, tonight we're going to do this one, none of them go, oh, what the fuck we have to do that for? Or maybe they do, you know? But I was always up against these guys sort of undermining, and I didn't, for my own part, I didn't handle it well. As I said, I would either be like, I'm the fucking leader here and you fucking do what I like. And then they would hate me and not talk to me. So I couldn't bear that, because you've got to spend so much time with them. One day we were driving along in Melbourne, and I didn't mind driving. If you put me on an open road and go, drive here, it's 1,000 miles, I'll go, great. But I have this, like I'm an Asperger's person, obviously. And I couldn't remember my way round my own neighbourhood, let alone Melbourne, which was a big, complicated city with all these overpasses. And one day they were going, and it was before sat nav and all that, and I'm driving, I'm going, look, I'm lost, someone help me. And one of them said, we had to find out the way, now you're going to have to find the way for yourself. God. And I said, fuck you, I write the songs, how about you let me write the songs and you guys learn to drive around fucking Melbourne. And no one spoke to me for 2 months. It was like, when I said it, there was this intake of breath, like, how could you say that? And then bang, none of them would talk to me. But it was sort of like, because my position was unclear, and I don't blame them. You know, I did it all the wrong way, and I don't blame them. And we made some great records, but it was always sort of undecided. What was I? Was I just one of them, or was I the boss? And I wasn't a very good boss. I didn't. Now when I go into the thing with these guys, it's perfectly clear, and it's really money. It always comes down to it. If you're paying for the record, you can fucking say how it's going to be. That's the, you know, it's your record, and in the end you go. You know, you listen to people go, but Steve, and you go, yeah, but Steve, and you go, yeah, and then you go, no, it's going to be the way I say, and they acquiesce, because the money talks loud. When you're in a band that's a sort of a democracy, and you're in a studio that record company's paying for, and they've hired a producer who's, you know, then you've got to make a lot of compromises, and sometimes what comes out of those compromises is very successful, and sometimes it's just a hodgepodge of sort of people trying to get along with each other, and it's neither one thing or another. More often than not, it's that than something good.
Yeah. How is your relationship with most of the guys from the band at this point?
Well, we're on our third drummer, and both of the original guitarists have left. Marty Wilson Piper left in 2013, and Peter Koppes left in 2019, due to musical and personal differences, and also the fact that they've been doing it a long time and they'd had enough. And I don't blame them for that. I don't blame them. Marty did 33 years and Peter did 39 years. That's a long time to be at a company. When you want to leave, if you've been with a company for 30 odd years and you go, "Hey boss, I'm leaving," no one should go, "What the fuck?" You know, like, why don't you give it a chance? You know, it's like, by then you know what's happening. So I don't have very good relationship with them. They didn't have a very good relationship with each other. And they left because it wasn't going the way they wanted, and or they just had enough. They want to do their own things, and they're both talented, creative guys, and good luck to them. The guys, we got a brand new fifth member. So a guy called Ian Hogue came along from a big Australian band called Powderfinger, and he joined when Marty left. And when Peter left in 2019, we got a Melbourne guitarist called Ashley Naylor, who's there's like three guys in Australia, you know, like if you're going to have a guitarist and you've got all the money in the world, you get one of them, and Ashley's one of them. So he joined because he was and Ian and Ashley were fans of the church. They're a lot younger than me as teenagers. So they're happy to be in it. And we got a new fifth member, a guy called Jeffrey Kane, who was in Remy Zero in America. He was the songwriter and driving force. He was a teenage fan of the church. He's now joined on he's like an auxiliary musician doing bits that the other two guitarists don't do, like keyboards and sound effects, and sometimes he does solos and stuff. He is an incredibly gifted guy, and his personality drove us to a whole new height that it's like having a guy join a football team. He's not necessarily scoring all the goals himself, but his attitude brings out the best in everybody else. And Jeffrey joined. He's been now in the band for about 4 years, and he's brought out something really wonderful. And Tim Poles has been on drums since 1993. I get on pretty well with all of them, but it's kind of a different thing now because I'm the one who's been in there all the time, and there are precedents for this, like a guy that a band can become one single guy who just keeps adding new musicians or doing whatever, or musicians come and go. I think of a band like the Byrds, where it was Roger McGuinn and other guys would come and go. A British band called Hawkwind, which has been Dave Brock. And then you think of a band like The Fall, Mark E. Smith. His famous comment, someone said, "Who is The Fall?" And he said, "The Fall, if it's your granny playing the bongos and me singing," he said, "that's The Fall." Yeah. So I guess that's what I have to say about the church. It's like the church is whoever is in the church. And we are now, it's changed. This is the idea I'm trying to sell to people. This is how I'm trying to justify it. Once upon a time, it was about these four musicians, but now, 41 years later, it's about a body of work that all the musicians that have come and gone have sort of contributed to. It's become a body of work, and the players now add to that body of work and try and reproduce that body of work as faithfully as we can, with thanks to the people who went before and helped create all of this. But none of those musicians leaving can stop the thing going on. I don't see why it should. There's a body of work that I think needs to be played, and I think the band should carry on playing it. As long as I'm around, and I always say this, if I drop off my perch and they find another singer and bass player, and when I'm dead, they want to go around calling at the church and playing all these songs, then they have my blessing to do that as well. It's like, it's like those Beatles shows you go and see. Some band reproducing the Beatles. Well, you ain't going to hear the Beatles. So I'm pretty much a purist, but I've seen some Beatles shows where I go, wow, it's great to see it all being played in front of you and because you're never going to hear the fucking Beatles playing Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, not live. You can turn up your stereo all you like, but to actually be there and see guys playing it and see the guy doing the Ringo parts and all of that sort of stuff. I think once a body of work has been created, even just like the church, which is only a sort of footnote, it's not the Beatles at all, it's a footnote in rock and roll. There's a band called The Church. They did this body of work. There's 35 albums. If you care to hear that, there is a band going around live playing that, which is kind of what we are. We're a band exploiting we have this whole body of work at our fingertips, and plus, we're adding to it as well. So it's an ongoing project. That's how I justify it, because people, when Marty left and then when Peter left, people went, a lot of people, the old school church fans said, it's not the church anymore, it's just Steve Kilbey's band. But it is the church, and we are doing the church, and we're trying to do it as faithfully as possible. And if you want to hear those songs that you like from the 1980s, whatever, this is the only way we can do it. I can't stop because somebody didn't want to do it anymore. I have to keep going. Yeah.
With regards to touring, when do you think you could even begin to start considering touring again?
Well, my friend, I was hoping you'd tell me.
Yeah.
Look, Sydney's in the middle of a 2-month lockdown. We're right in the middle of it. We've done 1 month. We've got 1 month to go. All my work's been cancelled. Everything. I had so many gigs through July and August. People used to say to me, how can you even survive through that August? You're playing every night. And I was like, yeah, because I want to do that. I want to make the money, but I want to play as well. It's like, the money's great, but playing, it's what I do. It's like telling a carpenter he can't bang a nail in wood anymore. So everything's been put off in Australia now. As far as coming to America and touring around Europe, who can really say? I see my friends, the Psychedelic Furs, are about to start playing again. What will the audiences be socially distant, or will they all have masks? How will that work?
Yeah.
Do you know?
I'm not sure. Like right now in Chicago, where I'm at, we're holding Lollapalooza this weekend.
How does that work?
A lot of people are worried about it. They're supposed to be doing checking for vaccination cards and recent test results. But
okay.
I don't see that happening.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. Well, theoretically, everybody who's going to a big festival like that should have the latest test result, and they should fucking, what are they waiting for? Why don't they have one when you go to the festival, a guy puts a thing in your mouth and says, wait in this here for 5 minutes, and then he comes back and goes, right, you can go in, you can't go in, you better go home right now. Why, that can't be too far off. I guess it's the only way. The vaccinations and testing is the only way. But as far as me getting, as the church getting there and touring, we're booked for the Real World Festival. You know sorry, the Cruel World Festival, the one with Morrissey and Blondie.
Right. Yeah, next year.
Anyone who ever wore black clothes and stood in a smoke machine in the 1980s is at the festival.
Yeah.
If a bomb drops on that festival, it will be the end of the goths. Every single goth, it'd be a tragedy. They're all going to go in one go. Let's hope. We're looking at that. We're hoping to be there. I'd be loved 2022, and I'm standing on stage going, "Good evening, cruel world."
Yeah.
But I don't know.
My ex-wife actually is going to one of those shows, so she's already got her tickets at least. So
hey, is Brett Hickman's ex-wife here? This song's for you, bitch.
That would be funny if you could somehow remember that. That would be funny. But let me ask you one final thing with regards to touring. How much does this downtime affect you in terms of survival, in terms of living?
Totally. Well, let me say this, because I'm an honest guy. When it first started, I was one of the first people in probably, it seemed like I was, and people were doing articles about me going, look at this guy. He jumped on Instagram and asked for contributions. So like about a week after it really hit Sydney, one day I got on my Instagram live and said, I'm going to play some songs. If you feel like chucking some money at me, you can. Here's my PayPal address, which is Steve Kilbey at Gmail, by the way. Anyway, my PayPal address is this. And I had a lot of people watching, and initially a lot of people, people would sort of throw $20, $30 at me, and you get a few people chucking $20 or $30 at you, and it's all right. And I was doing it in the beginning. I was doing all right, and I was surviving on Instagram. Can you believe that? On Monday night, voluntary contributions, and of course, then I discovered my new brilliant patron, the lawyer in New York, who's actually, I see if you know this word. He's a newfie. Do you know what that is? A newfie? He's from Newfoundland.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a humble guy from Newfoundland, and as a teenager he loved the church. He's come to New York, and now he's a big time lawyer, and he told me how much tax he pays, and I'm just saying, if you pay that much tax, imagine how much fucking money you're actually earning to be paying that much tax. Yeah. So he chucked a little bit more, than people were, and I said, I'm going to make a record with this, and he chucked me a bit more, and I was doing okay. However, the novelty sort of wore off. I don't make that much from it anymore, not at all, and not as many people watch. I guess that's sad, isn't it? That I could get really depressed about that. Yeah. When I started, I was doing really well and lots of people watching. Now it's not so many watching and not so many paying. But what happened was that live music really opened up, and I was playing lots and lots of gigs. The church actually did one gig, playing gigs with the Winged Heels, I do this show, the first 23 church singles with a really good pickup band. I was doing gigs with them. I was singing David Bowie and the Beatles with orchestras in big theaters, and I was doing my own acoustic shows where I do the first 4 church albums, one after another, just acoustic and intimate. So I had loads of work lined up, and now it's all gone. And so I'm I'm broke as you could be, and applying for government assistance, which they're giving us. They're giving us like a little bit of money to live on. I guess and a little bit of money trickles in. Some people from Instagram, some very kind people still pay. And, every now and then I get a royalty check or something. It's not totally, I mean, I'm not out on the street and I'm not going hungry. So it's not like that. And I do appreciate, things could be a lot worse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's really, it's, to have all your gigs cancelled is a bad feeling. Like really, sometimes I just sit down and they're all rescheduled. They're not, I shouldn't say cancelled. They're all postponed. They're rescheduled. But you notice, of course, some people who could have seen you on the 1st of July on a Saturday night, suddenly when the gigs change to the 26th of November, they go, no, I can't do that. I do want my money back. So, it's not all the people are going to the next show. Some of them go, I don't want it, I can't do it, change their mind. So there is a bit of erosion of the audience.
Well, I mean, eventually we're going to have to get this under control. I know we're here in America, we're starting to see the variant kind of hit us a bit, and we're probably close to having trouble again ourselves. So I don't know. I mean, it's a sad time. It's a sad time.
It is. It is in many, many ways. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And so, because it is a sad time, I try not to dwell on that. And when I do my Instagram shows and the music I make, I'm trying to, more than ever, I think music is a kind of escapism. I noticed I did have one other straight job. I had a job, I was a tiler's labourer, guys laying tiles on the floor in huge brand new offices that were being built to house the government, like acres and acres of office space. There's guys laying the tiles and there's guys or boys running up to them, keeping up the supply of tiles and the glue and whatever they fucking wanted. You were their labourer, and you go and get another fucking 4 boxes, and these boxes were these big heavy. So I'd run backwards and forwards doing this all day in my school holidays, for which I got the princely sum of $60 a week, working 5.5 days a week, from 7 till 4. I used to come home and collapse, but I noticed I'd come home and I put my favorite T-Rex record on, and another world would open up. I could escape from all of that and all these yobbo Aussie workmen, sort of doing all their horrible things that they do, the horror, smoking and farting and swearing and cursing and yelling, and it's horrible. I didn't want to be there, but I'd come home, put my record on, I could escape. And now that, especially with Hall of Counterfeits, it's like, this is a world, and it's a sort of a long world because it's a double album. Here you can escape into this world and forget all this other stuff just for a while. Yeah. So that's more than ever. I feel my calling is to help, to give people something else. And I've also realized when I first started, I just was doing this because I wanted to be a pop star and I wanted to make money and travel around the world and all that stuff. And the people I was playing for, I never dreamed it would have any kind of profound effect. I just thought, I'll give them a tune and a bit of, I didn't realize, and now 41 years later, I realized there are some people, not a lot of people, but a small amount of people in this world a lot of people find comfort in music, and a small amount of that lot of people find comfort in what I do, amongst other people as well. But they kind of, whatever I do makes them feel good. And it's strange to think I never thought it would be an ongoing thing. I thought what I was doing and what we were doing was ephemeral. I thought it was like a single come out and no one had, it might get played if you're lucky. I didn't think some of the songs would be around, seems like forever now. They've become sort of, they've become part of the language. Not like the Beatles who've got like 200 songs like that, but I've got a couple, and in Australia a couple more. So songs have become part of the lexicon of, the bands in garages play those songs, and housewives know what they are, and they're used in movies and all of this kind of thing. I never thought that would happen. I never thought I would here be sort of getting towards the end of my life, looking back on this sort of and thinking of it as a body of work. It was just seemed like at the time, it's another record, write some songs. And now I look back on it, and without thinking about it, without having those grandiose ambitions, I have actually, in my own small, minor, footnotey way, have got quite a body of work. And with my solo records and everything, over 1,200 registered songs. It's a lot of, I've written a lot of songs, and not that quantity is quality, but so here I am at the end of it all, and sort of feeling like I did some good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And you definitely figured out the right way to turn it back in from something kind of a bummer to something positive. So I appreciate you turning that our conversation. And actually, I think it's a perfect way to end.
Okay, mate.
Well, let me say
all
that your Steve's new album with the Winged Heels, the Hall of Counterfeits is out now. So go check it out wherever you happen to listen to music. You go check it out.
It's on streaming. It's on all streaming services.
Yeah, well, maybe try and buy something. Buy the vinyl.
When it comes, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
All right, Brett.
Excellent. Thank you very much for taking the time, Steve. I wish you the best of luck. I hope you're back on the road soon.
Thank you, mate.
All right. You have a good night.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye.